Hey guys, it's the final season of Game of Thrones this month, so in honor of the final season of Game of Thrones, this month's top 5 is going to be 5 book recommendations that I think you might like if you're a fan of Game of Thrones. So, at number 5, let's state the obvious. If you love fantasy and if you love Game of Thrones, I think one of the most obvious choices is that the Lord of the Rings trilogy by J.R.R. Tolkien is a must-read. This may perhaps be the more PG-related version of Game of Thrones, if you will, but still, it has all those fantasy elements like dwarves and elves and lands, you know, mythological lands and whatnot, and extensive world building. And if that's what you love about George R.R. Martin's writing, you know, the extensive world building and character exploration, then yeah, the Lord of the Rings trilogy is like right up your alley. So yeah, I'm assuming everybody knows what the Lord of the Rings trilogy is about, right? Do I even need to give a synopsis in case you're not familiar with the Lord of the Rings, I suppose? Yeah, this first book, The Fellowship of the Ring, it's about a hobbit named Frodo, and he comes into possession of this magical ring that was like created by like the super master villain, if you will. And yeah, it's Frodo's mission to go on this quest with this other wide, diverse variety of people, and they gotta destroy this ring. So that's what the entire trilogy is about. It's about all these characters trying to destroy this damn ring. So yeah, Lord of the Rings, I love these books. I've read them several times, and they're just always just so good, and I love getting back into that world and with these characters. Here's another obvious one, for obvious reasons. At number 4, The Inheritance Cycle by Christopher Paolini. And yeah, if you can't guess, I primarily chose this series because of dragons. If you love the dragons or the Targaryens in Game of Thrones, then The Inheritance Cycle is definitely a must for you. If you don't know what the Inheritance Cycle is about, it does have 4 books. They are considered, you know, are they considered, they're kind of considered like middle grade slash young adult in some ways. That's kind of where I'd put them. But yeah, the first book, Aragon, we follow a young boy named Aragon. He finds this blue egg, it hatches, he finds out he's like a dragon rider or something like that, and yeah, he gets sucked into this whole big epic war going on within his world. And yeah, if you love dragons, if you love epic battles, and epic characters and relationships and whatnot, I think The Inheritance Cycle is definitely a must for you. Once again, it's more a PG version, you know, of Game of Thrones, if you will. And yeah, this is also just very similar to something like Lord of the Rings, for instance. Christopher Paolini made reference that he based a lot of stuff off of, you know, his love of the Lord of the Rings. I think a lot of books do that. You know, a lot of fantasy books, they always credit J.R.R. Tolkien for rightful reasons, if you will. But yeah, Inheritance Cycle, I love this series. I haven't read it in such a long time. I kind of would love to do a reread of it sometime in the near future. Okay, here's a really weird choice that you guys might be a little confused by, but give me a second. I'll explain why this series is in this particular video. I have at number 3, the Death Note series by Tazungi. No, how is it pronounced? Tazumi? You guys, I can't pronounce this. This is terrible. Tazumi Oba? I'm not Japanese, you guys. Excuse me. But yeah, the Death Note series. This is a series of like, I think it's like 13 issues, I want to say. The particular volumes I have, there's like 13 volumes. It is a manga series taking place in Japan, following this, I guess he's a high school student, whose name is Light. He comes into possession of what is called a Death Note, and with this Death Note, he has the capabilities of writing names down in it and murdering some folk. How great is that? The thing is, though, he abuses this power. That's kind of what this whole series is about, is that he comes into possession of this book that, you know, he's using it for for good purposes, almost in a sense, you know, he has good intent initially, because his initial intent is to kill murderers, you know, people who are murderers, people who are rapists, people who have done truly terrible things, you know, truly terrible crimes. So his intent at first is good, but over the course of this series, Light gets very ambitious and greedy and really looking out for himself, you know, once he kind of starts digging deeper into this hole. So yeah, the reason I have chosen the Death Note series for fans of people who like Game of Thrones, I've chosen it if you're someone and you love the villains of Game of Thrones. Let's put it that way. If you freaking love the villains of Game of Thrones like I do, you will love this series, I think. For instance, if you love Ramsay Bolton's sadism, this book is for you. If you love the cunning of Tywin Lannister, this book is for you. If you love the Machiavellian manipulative nature of Littlefinger, this book is for you. So yeah, all of the big villains of Game of Thrones, you know, they're all just so interesting, and you love to hate them all, you know? And yeah, Light is very much the same. Light, you know, you initially like him, and he starts to do some terrible things, though, but you kind of start to love to hate him, and yeah, he just gets so far down the villain train, it's not even funny. So yeah, that's why Death Note is in this list of top 5, you guys. I know it's a little wild and crazy, perhaps weird, but that's my logic, you know, that's my logic. If you love the villains of Game of Thrones, this series, you know, the main villain of this is very, very similar to all those characters. Next up, at number 2, The Family by Mario Puzo, and this is historical fiction, telling the story of the Borgia family, who were a very notorious family back in Renaissance Italy during the late 1400s, somewhere in there. And yeah, one of the leading people of this family was Rodrigo Borgia, who became Pope at that time. And yeah, you may be familiar with other figures like Cesare Borgia, Lucrezia Borgia. So yeah, the reason I have chosen this book, if you're a fan of Game of Thrones, maybe you're a fan of the craziness of the Lannisters. Maybe you love the Lannister family. This book is for you, you guys. The Lannisters and the Borgias, they're practically the same. They got their twisted family drama and intensity, plus incest. The Borgias have that as well. It's crazy. Yeah, Rodrigo Borgia, he's pretty much Tywin Lannister. Cesare and Lucrezia Borgia are pretty much Jaime and Cersei Lannister. And then Tywin, or not Tywin, Tyrion. I'm not sure who Tyrion would actually be from the Borgia family. I guess, yeah, whoever you kind of want to see Tyrion as in the Borgia family. Kind of do that how you will. But yeah, the Borgias were definitely just a fucked up family full of problems, but yeah, very ambitious and power hungry and willing to do the hard things to stabilize their positions of power and whatnot. So yes, Mario Puzo's The Family. I freaking love this book. And at number 1 is the Cousins War series by Philippa Gregory. And George R. R. Martin himself has stated that he based his Song of Ice and Fire series, he based it off of the War of the Roses. The War of the Roses, which happened in the 1400s for quite a span of time, several decades. And yeah, the War of the Roses taking place in England at the time, and being this rivalry between two various different factions of the Plantagenets. And yeah, that's what the Cousins War series by Philippa Gregory is about. It is about the War of the Roses, the whole thing between the House of York and House of Lancaster. So yeah, you can kind of see those similarities there that George R. R. Martin chose, you know, House Lannister, House Stark, York and Lancaster. Yeah, Philippa Gregory, I think the Cousins War series is easily her best series out of all the books that she's written, and I love all of her books, you guys. I pretty much love all of Philippa Gregory's books. But yeah, these particular books, that being The White Queen, The Red Queen, The Kingmaker's Daughter, I love all those. Those are easily my favorite books. So yeah, if you're a fan of Game of Thrones and whatnot, I think you would probably really like these. They have really strong female heroines and great villains, and yeah, just a lot of conflict and battle, because the War of the Roses was pretty crazy. It went on for such a long time, there were so many shifts and power and whatnot, and just so many kings. It's great. So yeah, I highly recommend The Cousins War, you guys. So that's it for this month's top 5, you guys. I'm just so upset about Game of Thrones ending, so I was like, well, you know what, let me help other people who might be upset as well. You know, perhaps you need some other material to read to fulfill that void that Game of Thrones might be leaving. So yeah, these are books that if you like Game of Thrones, I think you might like in particular. Maybe, maybe not, I don't know. But yeah, in the comments below, what other books do you guys think I should read? You know, you all know I'm obsessive. I have an obsessive love towards Game of Thrones. What other books should I read to fulfill my void? So that's it for this video, you guys. Don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. And if you like this video, you may like these other videos. Bye, guys.